Hi there, business owners, directors, and marketeers. In today's show, I'm meeting Joshua Ho, and I'm Lucas, your host as always. So, Josh is the founder and CEO of Referral Rock. It's a self-funded, all-remote referral marketing software as a service company, and he runs product and marketing along with all the other jobs, which he sort of hasn't been filling up for. It's a fully remote team that is working together on the product, and I'm very glad to have Joshua on the show today. Welcome.
All right. All right. Thanks for having me.
Very cool. So tell me about Referral Rock. What is it all about?
So yeah, as you mentioned, we're in the crowded MarTech SaaS space. So we do have our little spot on is it MarTech 5000 now? I don't know. It just keeps jumping and getting bigger all the time.
Yep.
So yeah, I think our square is called like referral and loyalty, which I have a little bit of a problem with because loyalty is actually, once you get down to it, is a very different thing than referrals. Yeah, we're referral marketing. Our mission is to help businesses get all the word of mouth referrals they're missing out on. We feel like most customers or most businesses are waiting around for word of mouth to happen. You ask them, they're like, oh yeah, where's your word of mouth, or where's your business come from? You know, where are new customers? And they just say word of mouth. And you're like, okay, where? And you're like, yeah, I don't know. People just, they come. I don't know. So we believe word of mouth can be influenced through the same best practices everyone else is already doing in marketing, just pointed towards referral programs. So funnels, email marketing, good copy, incentives, non-incentives. That's kind of a misnomer. Everyone thinks referral programs have to have incentives. But if you align properly with your businesses, you can find ways to incentivize that aren't, cash-based or necessarily, giving away things. So.
Very cool. Yeah, I can definitely agree to that because a lot of people on the show have been referring to referral marketing to be one of the key drivers of the growth. Very, very interesting. Cool. So who would be benefiting most, or what types of businesses usually tend to work well for the product that you're having there? Like, could you describe a typical user?
Sure. So it's interesting for us because everyone says try to focus on a niche, and what we did is early on we were focusing on a certain segment of the market where most people were doing e-commerce based referral marketing. That's pretty much the one everyone knows about. So Uber referral programs, refer a friend, that Dropbox, you get more space, things like that. So a lot of B2C companies do come to us very often. So we get a lot of B2C types of things. But you'd be surprised at the amount of B2B things that happen as well. So we kind of run the gambit across in terms of all different types of companies. It's hard to segment. There's definitely types of customers that don't work well. But I mean, we have banks and credit unions all the way down to like niche travel companies, things like that. So if you think of it, if people can talk about your business, it can be a good fit for something like referrals.
Interesting. So I understand correctly that your product then really gives them the ability to enhance their referral marketing, to professionalize it, to structurize it, to put metrics on it, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Cool. So how would these folks end up finding Referral Rock? Like what's a typical user journey to, ending up finding the product, testing the product?
So we are pretty much primarily inbound marketing. So we do a lot of SEO. Our thesis is generally if you're in the market for something referral marketing related, you'll probably find us. We just wanted to be in the conversation. So that's kind of where it started way back. And we've continued to double down on that. We've thought about ideas of doing outbound or conferences or other things like that. But with the remote team and just the way we were structured, we just kept doubling down on what was working. So we write a lot of content. We do a lot of SEO. That's roughly our playbook and how customers will find us.
Cool. Can you share a little bit more of insights, like what you learned on that way? What has helped you, to have a strong inbound setup then for that particular types of keywords? I'm assuming you're like referral marketing,
Mm-hmm.
types of things, like something that you learned along the way that has helped you to give an extra push.
Sure. Early on, the biggest advice was probably just really staying close to the bottom of the funnel as much as possible. So looking for the high intent types of things versus, everyone would love to, even a term like referral marketing is broad and you would think it'd be something that, would align right well with us. But one, it gets a little competitive once you get into the shorter and higher queried terms. But what ends up happening is it's also very generic, right? So you might not get businesses. It's just someone wondering what referral marketing is. So it is a much bigger pie, but a lot less focused on what you might provide. So, finding terms and finding kind of, I would say almost like golden little nuggets in the SEO of terms like something like, referral marketing strategies for banks or something like that. Those are, you might only have 100 queries for that in a month, but they're super high intent and they're actually a lot easier to rank for. So we found those, and then we also go use a strategy that where we have kind of an idea or a thesis on one, and we might write an article first, and we use a lot of feedback loops. Like we'll check Google Search Console to see what the actual number of impressions are versus trusting all of the Ahrefs and everyone else out there that gives you traffic numbers, because they have good data and they're still relatively in the ballpark. But it could be a massive difference for me where that query that someone says only has 100, I start listing it, getting on a page, and I can see I'm on page 2 or on the fringes of getting onto page 1, and there's 1,000 impressions. There's a lot more there than anyone else really knows. So we use a lot of feedback to kind of retarget and re-optimize based off of the actual impressions and stuff we see out of the Search Console.
Very good, very good, very good. So but it takes a lot of upfront work, right, to get all of this content out, to then get the traffic in, to then optimize for those that are kind of having potential based on your experience.
Yeah, there's a lot of steps to it. It's funny, it turns into the type of marketing where you have to change your mindset instead of what everyone kind of tells you is like publication-based marketing in terms of content. And if you think of it more as like if content is an asset and you're running experiments and you're free to keep updating them, keep changing them and things like that. So having that like more of a Wikipedia approach to like keeping up these things and treating it like a library versus a publication. It's definitely a mental shift, because when we bring writers on, they're like, okay, we need to get an article out this week. I'm like, who goes to referralrock.com/blog to like, what is the latest on referral marketing? Not many people. But yeah, if you get in that cycle and that modality, it definitely helps. And then from those, we do some calls to action and other things to drive them to the homepage or drive them to landing pages, which then drive them to a demo or a sign up.
Very cool. Is that usually text content only, or is it also like tools or something that you would be creating to, help referral marketeers to be, I don't know, enhancing their practice?
Like a
spreadsheet, like
the engineering is marketing type of stuff. Or we've experimented with that, but it's mostly content. We do have one. Funny enough, we do have one that is I created an Airtable that basically makes it so you can track referrals. Like you add an entry, you add a person, they'll give you a random code, and it's like 3 tables that basically makes up a small relational database that can essentially do referral rewards. So I think one of the terms we rank for is like referral tracking, and that one actually probably is around number 1, and it has with a downloadable thing so people can download that. What's funny enough is it's an Airtable thing, and I essentially am going to have Airtable for life, because anytime someone signs up with that, I get a $10 Airtable credit. And they have this great referral program. We don't run it, unfortunately, but and it's one of these ones where anyone that comes to any of your link, you get credit for. So I didn't even join the program. It was just a link. So they're a great example of like organic and paying it forward. They're like, oh, if you just share a link to a template or whatever, you'll get credit for that. So it's kind of nice.
Very, very cool. So could you tell me then a little bit about the role of your website? Because content being so important, like what does the role of the website play in that sort of system?
The website's everything. I mean, that's the asset. If it wasn't for that, it's like because we view it as multiple things. So we use multiple WordPress instances on our main domain. So referralrock.com just flat is the main marketing site. referralrock.com/blog is our blog content. We've recently started, you probably heard of like some hub and cluster topic types of strategies for SEO. So we recently did that, and that's under referralrock.com/hub. So that again is mostly content as well. But all of those pieces all look to basically drive people to landing pages that where we're getting a little tighter on our copy in terms of what we offer, and why you should talk to us, why you should talk to our salespeople, what our pricing is like, and then or drive them to the main homepage as well.
Very, very cool. And what would be the types of metrics? Because, since the website is a key asset for you guys, like what is the metrics that you would care about for the website that you really think, okay, this is the ones that we really have to focus on?
From the website perspective, it's probably just like we use goal tracking with Google Analytics, and I have those tied up to signups and to trials, so and to demos. So looking at that conversion rate percentage, looking at conversion rate percentages of specific landing pages, so I know to change copy or not to. The way we get those people to the landing pages, there's a lot of A/B testing with different words for copy that are getting those. So different parts of those. So if it's like here's a target blog post, and then here's some copy that can get them to a landing page. Then it's looking at that conversion, how that's performing, and then on the conversion of the actual landing page, like are they getting to the landing page, and then are they converting on the landing page? Once they're in our funnel, we do use a CRM, so we're looking at MQLs and SQLs and things like that.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. You mentioned the A/B testing there, and how does it look like in your team? Because we've seen so many different approaches, right? We have seen teams that test very heavily at the very beginning, and then they leave it there for a while. Sometimes there is specific people just being employed to run A/B tests. Like, what's your setup, and how are you thinking about A/B tests on the website?
Sure. The A/B testing for the website, well, we don't do too much on the website itself. So what I'll do is I might have 2 different landing pages that kind of speak to a different approach for selling Referral Rock or getting them interested. So one could be, for example, like a brand marketer. So we might be talking more about the features of how Referral Rock can align very well with your brand, with logos and copy and what customizations you can make. Another one might be that shopper that's looking at e-commerce solutions and say, well, we're not just a pretty widget that into your e-commerce site, we do all these other things. So those might be 2 distinct ways to sell Referral Rock to a different user profile. But they might be on a page about referral marketing strategies. And what I'll do is we'll take something like, I think we use Opt-in Monster. So to do like a top level bar, or we'll do one of those exit intent after a certain amount of page scrolling and things like that. And we'll A/B test those with the different messages to drive them to those different landing pages. So we'll run them for, usually it's kind of like I come up with an idea and I'll throw it up there, and it's me usually doing it, and I'll put them up there and I'll let them run for a certain period of time. And I don't really use any of the big statistical significance types of things, but usually if something starts converting around 10% to get someone over, I'm happy with that at the start, but usually it's either going to be a dud or it's going to be around there. And honestly, for me, it goes in cycles. So since I'm handling this part of the marketing and the demand gen for us, it really I cycle through it probably once a month in terms of how are those tests doing, what new ideas did I write down that when it's my demand gen week to go ahead and work through those types of things.
Very cool, very cool. I would have one very specific question there, because I had this conversation with a lot of guys by now. I've seen on your website you have a free trial button and you have a demo button, right? Which means there are 2 different journeys to get in contact with you guys and to experience what you guys are doing. So could you tell me a little bit about how you're thinking about this, how you came to the conclusion to put those 2 buttons and which type of metrics you would be caring about for both paths that you open there?
Sure. Well, this tracks back a little bit of history with us. So our product in the beginning, our intent was to make it a very kind of just self-service type of product. And we quickly realized within probably the first 6 months that there was just a lot more to it. I mean, if you even asked me then when I was initially building Referral Rock, I thought we would be feature complete in a year or so. And that was, 4 years ago. So it definitely has changed. And a big change with that was starting to talk to customers. So I started reaching out over chat and talking with people and really got a feel for what they were really needing and what their real challenges were. And what that happened then is I realized, that they started converting a lot faster once I started talking to them. I essentially stumbled into inside sales without knowing what it was called at that point in time. So then knowing that as a bootstrap business, it was sales and revenue that drove the ability to grow the team, to get more developers, to get more CS people, all of this thing to get us off the ground. That was our focus. So in those early days, we started investing more heavily into building out the inside sales and making that a scalable team. So even right now, you're almost catching us in a transition period where there was a couple years, or probably about a year, where I was so distracted by building up those parts of the team that the product didn't evolve as fast. Since then, like about a year or so ago, I brought on a tech lead. We have more developers, a lot more resources, and just all the things that you put on a list that we want to do that that's not the biggest fire that day. For a while, it was, we had a good inbound channel. We could keep making sales. We can make customers happy purely by customer success and the platform we were working with. Not saying it was bad, but we knew it wasn't self-service ready.
Gotcha.
So those are the angles we're going towards. We're definitely going more towards the product-led growth approach as much as we can, but we're not going to give up on what we know works, because the unit economics are great. So we're like, okay, that works, but can we expand our market by doing more free trials, more things like that more? So we've always left it on the website. If you go to any landing pages, for the most part, it does drive people to a demo, because we know that's the best way that we can get a higher conversion rate with manpower.
Makes total sense. Anything you've done in order to create the conversion of, somebody signing up for a demo? Any experiments that you run to, get more demos from the page?
From demos from a sign up, or
website to demo?
Website to demo. Yeah, the biggest ones are probably just we start to get to the point where we start to be picky and choosy about them. So we do break up the form. We do like a drip form where if you go onto any of the pages, sign up or demo, it just has name and email, and then you click next, and then there's a little text at the top, just like, oh, a couple more questions. How big is your business? What's the phone number? All those other things. So gotcha. It helps two ways. One, if you're really serious and you're going to work through it, if we're going to spend the manpower and the time to talk to everyone, which we love to do, we want to make sure you're qualified, or that we can help you. But having the smaller, risk of putting in shorter fields, helps. We also added, I think, sign up with Google for the sign up and the trial. Yep. Funny thing is, we added it to the demo first, and I got a mouthful from our sales team, because from ease of use, everyone just clicked the use Google button, which then used a Gmail account most likely, unless they were using G Suite or something like that. Yep. Which then basically killed our like lead scoring algorithms, because it's like a Gmail. It's like, okay, that dropped a bunch of points versus a custom domain. So.
Interesting. But the conversion rate went up, obviously, right? People
did, but we just got less good information, if that makes sense. So so we took it off the demo one, but.
Very, very interesting. Very cool. Thanks for sharing that. It's very, very interesting. Okay. Very, very good. So we spoke a lot about now the conversion rate and how you've been working, guys, into the demos. I would love to sort of switch topic a little bit, since we're sort of approaching the end of the interview. I would love to learn from you as a founder a little bit. Maybe you could tell me, like, how would you have gotten the first 10 customers? What did that look like?
Getting the first 10. So it's funny, it's a long kind of drawn out journey, but one of the early things we did in that time frame is we did use beta list at that time. I think when we, some of those software startup listing sites, I think back in those days it worked a little better. I think now it's probably become a very crowded, murky place. But can't say it might work fine now. I haven't tried it, but that was a way we got early beta users. And then, I got forced into following the advice of a friend by accident, where he was like, you're monkeying around with this beta stuff, not charging any people. He just made this flat saying, it's like, it's not a business until you're making money. And I was like, fine. He's like, just code something. And I'm like, I coded a quick script over, Stripe over a weekend. I'm like, fine, I'll get this up, I'll spend like the next 8 hours or whatever just putting that up, and we'll see what happens, and I'll put up a paywall. Fortunately for us, like within the first 3 days, I had a paid user. It kind of just totally changed my perspective. And then, fortunately, maybe about 2-3 weeks later, there was another one, and we still had the beta going. I was still getting feedback and moving forward with that. So that's kind of how it started. And I would say at that point we had enough of those beta users, enough of those where we could convince to add new features, and then they would flip to a paid version. So I took it slow over the course of time, but worked with them to make sure I could add value add features to make them paid customers.
Very, very cool. Makes total sense. Maybe one last question on that. Like,
Mhm.
you as an inbound sort of marketeer in that sense, or a company that's being driven by inbound marketing, how do you guys educate yourself? What is other resources that you could maybe, highlight for other folks listening? Where do you get, the latest knowledge on what to do in inbound marketing, and how do you sort of expand your knowledge?
Podcasts. Podcasts are just as you know, and as you guys run one. I actually, before you reached out, I went and listened to some podcast episodes of you. So even hearing your beginning spiel, I took a little bit out of that. It was like, I like the way they said that's the way you kind of stated your problem statements, or the way you were presenting Path Monk to your customers. So that was something I actually had written down after listening to a few. So podcasts are definitely just, it's like a fly on the wall of all these people that are seeing so many more reps than you do, because you just see, you see what you see. And I'm sure running this podcast, you get a ton of input as well. But that definitely takes a little more effort than I'm willing to put forth at this point in time. But I can listen to those and listen to other ones recommended. And, I might hear you at 1.5, 2 times speed. But at the same time, it's just, you can just speed up your learning so fast by hearing the nuance versus just a polished version of what people are putting out on the blogs and stuff.
Very good. Any specific ones that you would point out for inbound marketing?
I've lately started picking up on the Animals podcast. That was a good one. And then I think the Demio guys, I started listening to that one recently. So I usually kind of find one and then just like rip through the backlog once I discover a new one. I mean, the ones out there that people well know are, tried and true, but like listening to the SaaStr podcast and stuff like that. But sometimes it gets a little repetitive in certain topics or certain types of guests, and you start to see that. But so like definitely kind of scrolling around and hitting the up and coming ones. Ramley John does a good one, the Growth Marketing Today. I think I talked to him a couple times. Actually, I was on that one as well, but talking about different things. But his is pretty good, and he hits a whole bunch of guests that I've never heard of. And now I follow them all on Twitter, and then again absorbing those and making friends through those relationships.
Very, very cool. Cool. So, Joshua, thanks a lot. I think we've been sort of covering so many different angles about your business and how you guys have been working. So really appreciate you taking the time today and sharing what you guys doing at Referral Rock. So thanks for being part of the show today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.